Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on a really unique journey. It's one that bridges centuries and technologies, maybe in a way you wouldn't quite expect.
Yeah, definitely a bit unusual.
We're going to talk about turning, well, dusty old books into digital assets.
Right. Sounds a bit strange at first, maybe.
It does. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Imagine you're holding a first edition of Frankenstein, like the first edition. Mary Shelley's handwritten notes scribbled in the margins. Maybe a coffee stain from, 1818 on the last page.
Wow, so something incredibly fragile.
Exactly. Fragile, priceless,
Yeah.
totally irreplaceable. But what if, and here's the twist, what if you could share ownership or invest in it or trade it or even just experience that book online?
Without it ever leaving its, super secure glass case.
Precisely. That's really the core idea, right?
Yeah.
Tokenizing vintage books.
And what's so fascinating here and what we really want to explore in this deep dive is how blockchain technology is actually stepping in to, transform the world of rare books. Our mission sort of is to look at the whole picture, from preserving history, which is huge, to creating completely new ways for people like you to interact with these invaluable artifacts.
So get ready to rethink what ownership even means.
Exactly. Ownership, access. It all gets a bit blurry in the digital age. In a good way. Might be an aha moment here.
Okay, I'm ready. So, to kick us off then, what exactly is tokenization when we apply it to something so, tangible, like an old book?
Right. So, in essence, tokenization is the process of turning a real-world asset, in this case the book, into a digital token on a blockchain.
Okay, a digital token.
Yeah. And specifically for things like rare books, which are unique, we're usually talking about a non-fungible token, or NFT. You probably heard of those.
NFTs.
Right.
But what does that token actually represent? Is it like a picture of the book?
It can be more than that. It can represent various things. It could signify full ownership of the actual physical book.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Or, maybe more commonly, fractional ownership. So you own a piece of it. Or it could even represent specific access rights to the book.
Access rights. Like what?
So, for example, maybe one token grants the holder the right to, say, scan the book and republish the text under certain conditions.
Interesting.
Or another token might just be a share in the future financial value, if the physical book appreciates.
Yeah.
And it gets even cooler, I think. You could potentially pair the token with augmented reality.
AR. How would that work?
Well, imagine you hold up your phone to the token, or maybe even just view the token on your screen, and boom, suddenly you're flipping through a, 500-year-old manuscript right there in your living room.
Wow, okay. That's pretty compelling.
It adds a whole new layer of interaction.
So if we take that Frankenstein book again, the one with Mary Shelley's notes, beyond just sharing it digitally or using AR, why would anyone really want to tokenize something so precious? What's the real driving force here?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? If we connect this to the bigger picture, the main drivers are really preservation, liquidity for collectors, and fundraising for institutions. Those are the big three.
Okay, let's break those down. Preservation first.
Right. So many of these rare books are just incredibly delicate. They simply can't travel easily. They can't be handled by lots of people without risking serious damage.
Makes sense.
So digitizing them is already a step, but creating NFTs allows the world to engage with them, or at least verify digital versions, without causing any physical harm. It helps preserve these treasures for, future generations.
Okay, so access without damage. What about liquidity? That sounds more financial.
It is. Think about a collector who owns, say, that multi-million-dollar first edition. Selling it outright is a huge decision, and finding a buyer can be tough.
Right.
Tokenization allows them to potentially sell fractions of the book, so maybe they sell 10% of the ownership via tokens. This introduces liquidity into an asset that's traditionally very illiquid.
So you don't have to sell the whole thing to get some value out.
Exactly, and it's not just about selling fractions. It could fundamentally redefine these asset classes. Imagine, a collector in Singapore owning a verifiable share of a manuscript that's physically housed in London. They can participate in its value, maybe even its digital stewardship, without ever touching it. It opens up investing in art and history to a much wider global audience. It's quite democratizing, really.
Democratizing history. I like that. And the third one, fundraising for institutions.
Yeah, this is potentially huge for libraries, museums, universities, institutions that hold these amazing collections but often struggle for funding.
How would that work?
Well, imagine sponsoring, say, a rare edition of the Divine Comedy held by a library. Instead of just a plaque on the wall, your contribution could be recorded by owning a specific patron token.
Okay.
And your name, or your organization's name, gets embedded permanently on the blockchain, linked to that book as a patron of literature.
So it's like eternal proof.
Pretty much. Eternal, immutable proof of your contribution to preserving history. That's quite appealing for donors, potentially.
That paints a very clear picture of the benefits. I can definitely see the appeal there for all those groups. But let's get practical for a second.
Sure.
If I, as a listener, maybe had a priceless old family diary or something.
Yeah.
How do I actually do this? Is it simple? Like, do I just snap a picture? Or is there a whole involved process to get it from my dusty shelf onto the blockchain?
Yeah, it's definitely more involved than just snapping a picture. Let's maybe break it down with an example. Imagine a collector who owns, say, a 16th century book.
Right.
They might partner with a specialist company, maybe a digital archivist. The first step is usually scanning the book in incredibly high resolution. We're talking capturing every single detail, every flaw, maybe even that coffee stain we mentioned.
Right, super detailed scan.
Exactly. Then a metadata-rich NFT is created. And this is crucial. It's not just a link to the image.
What's in the metadata then?
Critical details. Things like provenance records the history of who owned the book before, any restoration notes, details about the paper, the binding, even the chain of ownership itself. It's all packed in there.
Okay, so it's like the book's digital passport.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's digital DNA or passport. Then a specific number of tokens are minted or created on the blockchain. Maybe, say, 100 limited edition tokens representing that book.
And what can people who buy these tokens actually do with them?
Well, they could trade them on NFT marketplaces like other collectibles. They could gift them. Or sometimes the tokens unlock access to exclusive bonus content.
Like what kind of content?
Maybe a high-res digital copy they can view anytime, expert commentary, or even something cool like a VR tour of the original printing press where the book was made.
Interesting.
And the key thing is all of the ownership transfers, the metadata, it's all tracked, verified, and stored immutably on the blockchain.
Immutably meaning?
Yeah.
It can't be changed.
Exactly. Once it's recorded, it's incredibly difficult, practically impossible, to alter it without detection. That provides the trust.
So definitely not just a pretty JPEG then. It sounds like that metadata, that digital passport, is where the real value lies.
Absolutely. That's what distinguishes it from just a digital image.
This sounds incredibly promising. It really does. But, like with any new technology, especially involving blockchain, there must be hurdles. There must be questions. What are the challenges here?
That brings us to a really crucial point. And you're right, there are definitely critical challenges that are being worked on right now as this whole field evolves. It's still early days in some ways.
Such as? What keeps people up at night in this space?
Well, big questions like who actually owns the intellectual property rights when a book, especially one potentially still under copyright or with complex rights, gets tokenized? That's a huge legal gray area.
Yeah, I can see that being messy.
Definitely. Then there's the very real risk of forgery or misrepresentation. How do you really ensure that the digital token corresponds to the authentic physical item described?
Right. How do you prevent someone tokenizing a fake?
Exactly. And maybe the most practical challenge, how do you actually prove that the token you hold genuinely corresponds to that specific physical book that's supposedly locked away securely somewhere, maybe in a vault halfway across the world?
Yeah, that link between the digital and the physical seems vital, but also potentially fragile.
It is. It requires trust in the process and the people involved. However, and this is important, solutions are emerging to tackle these things.
Oh, good. Like what?
Well, technologies like advanced digital watermarking on the scans, using things called DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations.
DAOs?
Yeah, basically groups where the token holders themselves collectively make decisions about the asset, maybe about its care or digital representation, sort of like a digital co-op.
Interesting.
And also the rise of certified, trusted custodial partners, companies that specialize in securely storing the physical asset and verifying its connection to the digital token. They're all working to solve these trust issues.
Okay, so the problems are real, but people are actively trying to build the infrastructure to make it trustworthy.
Precisely. It's an ecosystem that's still being built, but the foundation is getting stronger.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Maybe next time you walk past a really rare book, sitting behind glass in a museum or library.
Yeah.
think a bit bigger.
Yeah.
That ancient page, that fragile binding, it might just be the next frontier in how we tell stories using blockchain. It's bridging centuries, connecting physical history with digital tokens and tech. It's quite mind-bending, really.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this fascinating deep dive today.
And I think that's precisely the bigger vision here, isn't it? It forces us to rethink how we value, how we preserve, and how we interact with all of our shared cultural heritage, not just books. If we can do this for books, what other historical artifacts might be next? What totally new ways will we find to, connect with the past and maybe even help shape its future through these new tools?
A lot to think about.
Definitely. Something for you to ponder as you go about your day.